Hey kiddos! Today we're going to be talking about complex sentences. So we're going to take the information that we learned the other day about subordinating conjunctions and apply it to make some complex sentences. A complex sentence is simply an independent clause, aka a simple sentence, plus a dependent clause. An independent clause is a simple sentence that can stand alone. For example, we are late today. That is a simple sentence. It has a subject with we, it has a verb with were, so it is a complete thought. A dependent clause is an incomplete thought that cannot stand alone. Because we missed the bus. The word because is a subordinating conjunction, and that makes this whole part right here an dependent clause. If I walked into a room and said, because we missed the bus, well, that wouldn't make a lot of sense. But do notice it still has a subject, we, and it still has a verb, missed. Now I can combine those together, and I can say, we were late today because we missed the bus. We were late today is our independent clause. Because is our subordinating conjunction. And when we add that to we missed the bus, because we missed the bus becomes our dependent clause. A complex sentence can begin with a dependent clause. For example, because we missed the bus, we were late today. So we're starting off with our subordinating conjunction and turning that into a dependent clause. Then we follow it with our independent clause. But notice we added something to this sentence that we didn't have before. Do you see what we added? We added a comma. If you begin a complex sentence with your dependent clause, you have to add that comma before you start your independent clause. A complex sentence can also begin with an independent clause. Luis took a nap in the hammock after he ate lunch. Notice that Luis took a nap in the hammock is our independent clause here. It's a complete thought. Luis is our subject. What did he do? He took. After, in this case, is our subordinating conjunction. When we add that to he ate lunch, that becomes our dependent clause. Now, do we have a comma on this one? No comma, because we began our sentence with our independent clause. So we're going to take a look at this sentence and we're going to identify the independent clause with one line. I heated my cocoa in the microwave because it wasn't hot. So which part of that sentence is our independent clause? Right, I heated my cocoa in the microwave. Now we want to find our dependent clause, the part of the sentence that is not a complete thought. And that would be because it wasn't hot. The word because is our subordinating conjunction. So we want to look for those subordinating conjunctions to identify our dependent clauses. Do we need a comma in this sentence? Nope, no comma, because we started off with an independent clause. When the door slammed shut, it startled me. So what we want to do is we want to find the independent clause, that part of the sentence that can stand alone. It startled me is our independent clause. Now let's find our dependent clause. When the door slammed shut, that's our dependent clause. When is our subordinating conjunction. Does this sentence need a comma? It sure does. Because we began with our dependent clause, we need to put a comma in between the two. The crickets begin chirping as soon as the sun sets. Let's identify the independent clause here. Right, the crickets begin chirping. That part of the sentence can stand all by itself. It's a complete thought. Now let's identify the dependent clause. As soon as the sun sets is our dependent clause. As soon as is our subordinating conjunction. Does this sentence need a comma? Nope, no comma needed. We started off with our independent clause. If you want to get a front row seat, you'll need to arrive early. Let's find our independent clause. You'll need to arrive early. Good. That's a complete thought. Well, now, if that's our independent clause, what is our dependent clause? If you want to get a front row seat, that's right. If you find the word if, that gives you a clue that we have a dependent clause. Does this sentence need a comma? You betcha. We started off with a dependent clause, so we need to put the comma in between. Now let's practice combining some sentences using the subordinating conjunction given. We'll do the first one together, and then I'm going to have you pause the video and practice some on your own. Janice finished her dinner. She helped herself to dessert. I want to use the subordinating conjunction after to combine these sentences. So I have to think, did Janice finish her dinner after she helped herself to dessert? Or did she help herself to dessert after she finished dinner? Well, if you grew up in my house, you know you had to finish dinner before you started dessert. So I would start this sentence with, after Janice finished dessert, comma, because we're starting with a dependent clause, she helped herself to dessert. Now you try. Combine these two sentences using this word before. Pause the video here and then check your answer. Good, you should have written, Corinne buckled her seatbelt before she started the car. You could have also switched this sentence and said, before she started the car, comma, Corinne buckled her seatbelt. Let's try another one. Harold didn't go to the party. He wasn't invited. Combine these two with the word since. Pause the video here and check your work in a moment. You should have written, Harold didn't go to the party since he wasn't invited. Let's try one more. The female penguin lays the egg. The male penguin will sit on it. You're going to combine these two with the subordinating conjunction once. Pause the video here and check your work in just a moment. Did you write, once the female penguin lays the egg, comma, the male penguin will sit on it? Good. Remember that since we started with our dependent clause, we need to have a comma in between. All right, kiddos, you're going to use this skill today to practice on seesaw.